Okay, let's see. I was born in Prague in what used to be Czechoslovakia. Now it's just Czech Republic. That was right after the war. It was a DP camp, so we didn't really live there. We were just passing through on our way to the United States. And we got involved with Chabad. We became Chabad Chassidim. And when I got married, my wife and I moved to Minnesota to be on Shlichus. We opened a women's program, a crash course on Judaism for women of all ages. It was wild and crazy back in the 70s. It's been going ever since. So we must have had about 30,000 women coming through. And that's an education for anybody. So the main topic, of course, always came back to family, marriage, divorce, mothers and daughters. And so that was my education. I ended up writing a few books on the subject of intimacy and relationships and so on. So this is where we stand now, when the world is really, really interested in healthy relationships and rediscovering intimacy, finding out why we're alive in the first place, subjects like that. I have no idea. I don't know of any method or any style or any. We just talk. Can we talk? We talk. It's not preaching, it's not quoting, it's talking. Like I haven't prepared a speech in 50 years. Because the one time I tried to prepare a speech, it was a disaster. You go to yeshiva for 10, 12, 14 years, and then you have to prepare a speech, but you still have nothing to say after 14 years. Come on. Just say what you know. Social media, you can talk to 30,000 people at the same time. It's amazing. The internet has been the biggest blessing in recent history. No exaggeration. And here we thought it was the biggest curse and it's going to destroy us and the world is going to come to an end over it. Just talk. But, if you're sitting in a room and talking, why not open it up and let everybody hear? And if you're afraid that people are going to hear what you say, then you shouldn't be saying it. The first book came out in 1990. That was like a millennium ago. Feels like it anyway. It's such a different world back then. But it was published by Harper, which is a major publishing house. It was on, the theme in general was tznius, but we called it relationships. And it was very well received because they actually gave out a soft cover. First they print the hard cover. If that sells, then they give out a soft cover. So they did put out a soft cover, and then we bought the copyright and we've reprinted it about 9 times. So it's called Doesn't Anyone Blush Anymore? It was a good title. It worked. But it was one of the women who was sitting in the class and listening who decided that it's a topic that people need to hear beyond the classroom. So she edited it and she put it together. And I was in California and I spoke about tznius. And I didn't know that the vice president of Harper was sitting in the audience. And he said afterwards, if you can talk about modesty in the hot tub capital of the United States, you should write a book and I'll publish it. So. Wow.
And how long did it take you to write that book?
So actually, I didn't do the actual writing, but we sat and we edited and it took almost a year. The new book took almost 3 years. Yeah. So I didn't sit down to write from scratch. The thing is that when most writers, most books take a few years to write. The problem is that by the time you finish writing, a lot of the stuff you're putting in there has become irrelevant, dated. So you got to write with the awareness that this is going to be read in 4 years from now. You can't make reference to popular current events because they'll be forgotten in 4 years. Nobody will know what you're talking about. But when you're talking about tighter subjects, it's never going to get old. So it's safe. put in that much work, so it's not like a relief from the work. Yes, it feels very good that we're letting the world know, and who knows who's going to read it and where the book is going to end up. It's fascinating. But everybody says if you want to write a book, you set aside 2 hours a day. During those 2 hours, you have to write, not sit and dream. Write. The next day, you read the last paragraph of what you wrote yesterday, and you pick up from there and you write. It doesn't have to be good, just keep on writing. Once you get into the discipline of 2 hours of writing, everything will come together. But don't try to produce a book every day. Okay, today I'm going to write a book. No, you're not going to write a book. You're going to write down a thought, a chapter, not a book. It becomes intimidating. 60. Yeah, I started when I was a teenager. I began public speaking when I was a teenager. The New York area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. There are different organizations wanted to know more about Hasidim. It was a fascination, like so they would ask the central organization here to send them a speaker to tell them a little bit about, right? And it was very informal. They didn't have to have a great, well-known personality. So if a teenager felt that he's willing to speak, they would send. So I was one of those. And people would ask questions. And it's amazing that parents, grandparents would not hesitate to ask me advice, how to raise their kids and how to make their marriage work. And I'm like, not speaking from experience, but from what it's written, I can tell you this, that, the other. So yeah, I started giving marital advice and family advice. I think I was 17. Nope, my friends were much smarter than me, much more mature than me. No, I would definitely not. And that's why when I finally did get into it, it was like such a surprise to everybody. I was the quiet and shy one. Not particularly that one, except in the last 2 years, starting to become a little heavy. I go travel a little bit and get away. But the real challenge, I think, in public service is the tendency to want to be right. It's a terrible handicap. The need to be right gets in the way of everything. So that's what I tell everybody. If you want to be married happily, don't need to be right. But it's a natural instinct that you have to fight against all the time. Don't be right. Don't win the argument. Otherwise, you're not helpful anymore. You're competing. People don't need competition. So very often when a husband says, I know exactly what is wrong and I know exactly what I need to do in my marriage to make my wife happy, it's just that haven't done it yet. Or she doesn't let me, and you're very tempted to say, that's a rather arrogant position to take. Maybe you're not right. And then it starts a whole battle of wits and will, and not helpful. So you have to let people think that they are right. Then they trust you. Then you can make little suggestions on how they can improve. But this is the problem in all of life. The need to be right.
Yeah.
There's the ego where people are egotistical about their looks, about their position in society, all sorts of things that your ego can get hung up on. But I think the most, maybe the nastiest, is the one of the need to be right. Because that's directly competitive, leaves no room for the other person. I want to be the best looking. You can be second best, but if I'm right, you have to be wrong. So it's like a fight to the finish. Like there's no silver medal or bronze medal. It's nasty. It's nasty. And marriages for sure. The need to be right prevents you from merging, from becoming one, from bonding. It really keeps, puts up a big wall between spouses. And it's not even competing to be right. It's just the need to be right. Even if you don't fight about it, but in your own mind, I'm right. That creates such distance and coldness. The mind should never get in the way of the heart. So what complicates it somewhat is that If you're not sure you're right, why are you talking? So it's like you got to be absolutely confident that what you're saying is right and have no need to be right. So if you're not confident in what you're saying, it's not going to work. And if you have to win every argument, it's not going to work. So it's a balancing act there. It's right. I'm right. And it's right because it's not my opinion. If it were my opinion, it might not be right. My grandchildren. I happen to be in New York right now, and all the kids from all over the country come to yeshiva, to Beis Rivka, to New York. So on Shabbos, we have 22 grandchildren around the table. Here's the wisdom. If you raise your children, then you can spoil your grandchildren. But if you spoil your children, you're going to have to raise your grandchildren, and you're too old for that. And for some reason today, unlike when we were growing up, you don't have the right to make any mistakes anymore. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but definitely a difference. In the olden days, parents made mistakes, and the kids put up with it because that's life. Today, you don't get to make any mistakes. You have to be perfect, and of course, nobody is perfect. So there's nothing but anxiety and stress and misery because I don't know, the need to be flawless, impeccable. You can't make any mistakes because psychological damage. And so people become hypersensitive, and a microaggression knocks you out for a week. It is not wise. It's too mechanical. Hard to say. But I think that for the observant crowd, I think the discussion about our relationship with God is crucial because it is neglected in the schools. You come away with a vague notion of God, but a lot of laws and do's and don'ts and punishments and rewards and who are you serving? Who is all this about? I don't know. He's mysterious. I don't know. It's not. That's not healthy. You got a huge religion based on a tiny little concept. It's top heavy. So the slightest disturbance and disappointment, you throw the whole thing away. So the exciting new concept, I think it's new to almost everybody. We've always assumed that the human being, tiny, helpless, finite, always in need and always dependent. And that's reinforced 100 times a day. You can't do anything by yourself. Hashem has to help you. You have to ask, you have to beg, you have to plead, you have to do tshuva, you have to promise to be good, and then maybe you'll get what you need. God, on the other hand, is so perfect. He's so great. He's so high. He's so complete. He doesn't need anything. So you're the needy one. He needs nothing. Is it possible that Judaism is actually saying the exact opposite? Whoever created the world, the universe, doesn't need anything. You create a universe and you don't need anything? How does that make sense? On the other hand, you were created. You didn't ask to be, you didn't need to be. You were brought into the world with no needs. How did you become needy? It's the opposite. It really is the opposite. The creator is needy, which is why he created a world. We are needed. We are not needy. Turns out that human beings get past all the psychology from Freud to Adler to Frankl, all of them. They missed it. We don't have needs. We are not needy because we don't need to be here. So all the agonizing search of why am I here? What is my purpose in life? Don't look to your needs, because you don't have a need. You don't need to be here. You are not needy. You're dependent on food. It's not your need. That's how you were created. So stop with my needs. I need, I must, I have to. I don't have to anything. But my creator is expecting something from me. So I am here to serve, to be needed, not to agonize over my needs. This is such a radical idea that it has to be true. So opposite of everything we ever, all human beings forever. We are needy, we are dependent. We have to be on our knees all the time, begging the Eibishter to be nice to us, which is such a morbid view of life. Come to think of it. It's so pathetic. And it makes God sound really bad. So as you were saying, it has to be a warm relationship. But if you think God doesn't need you at all, and you have to beg him for everything, this is a warm, inviting relationship. So you tell me God doesn't need you, but you should love him with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. It's like an abusive relationship. I won't do anything for you, but you better love me. How? How do you love someone who doesn't care? Oh, yeah, he cares. He loves you. Yeah, but he doesn't need me. You know, what in the world does that mean? He loves me, but he doesn't need me. Well, that sounds like a pet, right? Everybody loves their pet. Nobody needs a pet. Human beings are not pets. We're not gerbils. So it turns out that a human being needs to be needed far more than he needs to be loved. So I was like, you have to need me. I can love myself, and I do. So I can't need myself. So somebody better need me. Love? I can love myself. We are intoxicated with love. It's an American thing, not a Jewish thing. Love is everything. Love, love. God is love. Life is love. Everything is love. All you need is love. It's so shallow and Hollywoodish. No, we don't need more love, but we need to know that we're needed. It's a constant thing. Seeing the light go on in people's eyes, like they come alive, like Trias Hamesim. You're talking to people and their eyes are dull, and life is meaningless, and they don't know what they're doing, and they hear something, and all of a sudden it's like, ooh. It's goodtoknow.org. Thank you for the opportunity. And Hatzlacha Rabbah. Let's change the world for the better. That's it. That's the name of the game. If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic, and you're looking for more information, or you want to hear it again from another angle, there's a way to do that. And that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it. I want to invite you to join us as VIPs, partners in our work, and join us also for a personal chat with other members of the VIP club. We talk about many things. There's an opportunity to ask, to respond, to make a comment, to meet the other supporters, and together we can really make a difference in Jewish life and in life in general. So join us. It's goodtoknow.org. Log in, call, make contact, and join us with the VIPs.